What is up, guys? This is Luke Hill for Kit Guru, and this is a quick unboxing and overview of Gigabyte's new X299 Aorus Gaming 3 motherboard. This is one of the new gaming line motherboards for the X299 platform from Gigabyte. So of course the front of the box has got a typical bird branded on there for the Aorus product range. You can see some of the features along the bottom, so RGB Fusion, Smart Fan 5. It's VR ready, seeing as it has USB ports and the ability to take a graphics card and high performance CPU. No surprise there, but of course VR is a massive buzzword these days, so anybody will throw it in wherever they can. Let's move around to the back. We see some more information regarding the features and the specifications. So we see some information regarding the performance through the power delivery system. Again, points made to the fan system. We can see an actual image of the motherboard, which is quite convenient if you're in a shop and for some reason can't access Google before buying this board. So without further ado, let's take a look inside. So when you open the box, first of all, you have the motherboard, of course. So we'll look at that in a second. You then have a divider covering off some of the accessories. Put that down there. And the accessory bundle is quite slim with this motherboard, so it's kind of towards the entry-level price range, around about £270-ish in the UK, which is not far off the starting point for the current X299 lineup, although that will kind of trickle down as the platform matures a little bit. So we have 4 SATA cables, even though this board has more than 4 SATA ports. If you want to use more drives, you have to buy them yourself. It's one of the compromises you make. You have the rear I/O shield, which has got Aorus branding on the back, and it's got all the ports labelled. This port labeling, it's fantastic. It's great in theory, but everybody just fumbles around trying to fudge USB ports into the back of their system. But obviously, if you happen to be able to look at the back of your system, then fine. It's also got some padding and some cover to prevent ESD. Get a bunch of manuals, yawn, thrilling. I mean, read this in the bath or something. You've got Gigabyte's quick connector blocks. This is quite convenient actually, and this means you can plug your chassis front panel cables into this block and then plug the block into the motherboard as one. So that's quite convenient if, like me, you have bigger hands and you struggle to get your hands or your large fingers into those little nooks and crannies in the corner of the motherboard when you've built the system inside the case. This is quite convenient, and we see something similar with ASUS, with MSI, so with Q connector, the M connector block, and it's quite convenient. Just a little piece of plastic, very cheap, so no harm. And then, of course, the star of the show, stickers. Who doesn't love stickers? So you get a VIP card, so you're part of the Aorus Members Only Club. Okay, fair enough, I'm sure that will appeal to somebody. You also get some warning stickers, warning that anybody disturbing you during gaming is going to be pranked heavily after that, which is probably pretty fair in all fairness. And then the most important one is clearly the passport sticker. So when you're stuck in security at Heathrow, you just whip out this, show them your passport, they'll see you're an elite gamer and you're straight through security. This is fantastic. So you can thank Aorus when you get off the flight quicker next time. And last but not least, you get a case badge. This is quite good to see. I know there's a lot of people and a lot of builders who like to put a case badge on the front of their system, on the side of their case or wherever. And some other motherboard vendors have stopped including this, so good to see. No problem with that. Sticking on the back. Great. So that's the accessory bundle for the Gigabyte Aorus X299 Gaming 3. Let's have a look at the motherboard itself. So here we have Gigabyte's Aorus X299 Gaming 3 in all of its glory. So, I mean, the first thing that's going to hit you is obviously the colour scheme. It's very dark black. Somewhat monochrome. It has slight white accents, which people probably like to see. It does have some onboard LEDs also. I personally quite like the colour scheme. I think it's good. It should be easy to match with other components. There's very little in the way of disgusting colours, to say the least. I mean, these little bits of red are very minor and probably won't be particularly visible in the case. So that's a good start. So if we move around to the top of the motherboard, you can see quite a few fan headers, and these all feed into Gigabyte's Smart Fan 5 system, which we've analysed in the past with other Gigabyte motherboards, and it's currently a very good system, has very good control, very good input from the other sensor data, so it is a good system, and there's plenty of headers around the board. You've got a single 8-pin connector, which is a slight difference to what we've seen in some of the high-end boards, which are 8-pin plus 4-pin. But it's unlikely you're going to be pushing those extreme voltages that will saturate the 8-pin on this motherboard anyway. We have one of Gigabyte's 5-pin RGBW headers, if your cable supports it, so you can get a pure white colour out there, which is a pretty good feature, it's cool. Either side of the LGA 2066 CPU socket, we've got 4 DIMM banks on each side, so that takes 8 DIMMs in quad channel if you're using a skylake-x CPU, or 2 DIMMs per channel, so 4 DIMMs total if you're using a skylake-x CPU, which you probably shouldn't, but that's another story for another day. Gigabyte does point out which DIMM slots should be used for skylake-x, so basically, if you do have a skylake-x chip with dual channel memory, just ignore these DIMM slots. It's annoying, but I mean, Gigabyte's hands are tied by Intel there, so that's the way it is. Fair play to Gigabyte for pointing that out, though. Obviously, the LGA 2066 CPU socket uses the same mounting points for CPU coolers as the LGA 2011 and 2011-3 sockets, so that's great if you've got an old Noctua cooler, Corsair, liquid cooler, anything that supports 2011, you can use it straight on this CPU socket, which is fantastic. You don't have to buy a new cooler. Great. Down the side, obviously, we've got ports. We've got 2 outwards facing internal USB 3.0 5 gigabit ports, so not the internal USB 3.1 Gen 2 10 gigabit header we're seeing come quite popular on some higher end and more modern motherboards, but obviously that's one of the cost cutting points that Gigabyte has taken to hit the price point. So moving around to the side, we've got 8 SATA ports. These are right angled and they operate from the X299 chipset. Next time we've got a Thunderbolt header if you're using a Thunderbolt add-in card, and a header for Intel VROC, or pay for RAID if you prefer. That's again another topic for another video. More fan headers, tons and tons of fan headers, which is great if you built in a system which you want really good control of a lot of fans. The PCIe slots then, so we've got 2 shielded slots, and these are the primary slots that you'll want to use for your GPUs. So by 16 wired, by 16 wired. Of course, how they actually operate will depend on which CPU you use. So skylake-x is 16 lanes, some of skylake-x is 28 lanes, and some of skylake-x is 44 lanes. So it's very confusing, but there's not really much that Gigabyte can do with this. That's just the way that it's been done with Intel. So you will have to check the manual actually, or reviews, to see which slots you should be using for your graphics cards. But these will be the primary slots because they have featured the shielding, which is quite good actually if you plan on shipping the system or moving it and you just want to prevent GPU sag. It's not bad. And you can see the wiring on the back, so of course you've got 16, 16, physical up to by 8, and then the other 2 slots are lower bandwidth, so they should be reserved for perhaps PCIe storage or other such devices. On the topic of PCIe storage, we've got 2 M.2 slots, and they both take PCIe 3.0 by 4 devices, so NVMe devices such as the Samsung 960 Pro, 960 EVO, and that's great, and they can be used together, so good. There's no cooling mechanism, which is slightly disappointing to see, but Gigabyte reserves that for their higher end models which use an aluminium cooler on top of the SSD to prevent thermal throttling. It would have been nice if Gigabyte had branched some form of heatsink away from the chipset, but they haven't, so I guess that's one of the areas where cost has been saved on this lower end SKU. And we've got the audio, so we've got WEMA capacitors as well as Nichicon capacitors to help filter signal through the audio system. Intel based NIC, which we'll move on to. So it's quite a slim selection of rear I/O ports in all honesty, but it's probably going to suffice for what a lot of people will be doing. So you've got single gigabit Ethernet, you've got 2 USB 3.0 5 gigabit ports, and another 2, and this one's flanked by PS2 combo ports if you have any debugging problems and you want to plug in an old keyboard, great. You've got 2 10 gigabit USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports, one in Type A form and one in Type C form, and then you've got multi-channel audio. There's no optical audio out, so if you, like me, use a cinema system or surround sound speakers with optical audio, find another solution. It's as simple as that. So moving back here, we've got obviously the rear I/O shield. It's got some Aorus branding on the top of it. This is quite good to see because nobody likes to see ugly silver ports, so this just simple piece of plastic adds a nice aesthetic touch, which has become popular over recent times. On the topic of covers, we've got obviously a heatsink here. So this is a metal heatsink, fairly sturdy, and it's actually screwed in very well. I have taken this off already. It's got a thermal pad underneath, and it's cooling the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 power delivery phases, 8 of which are likely to be allocated for the CPU. And these are, Gigabyte is using very strong MOSFETs underneath there, so international rectifiers-based co-packaged solutions. So good power delivery system, which is really important because we always see that a lot of the skylake-x chips can absolutely guzzle power when you're overclocking them. So strong VRM is really, really important. So that's been our quick unboxing and overview of Gigabyte's X299 Aorus Gaming 3 motherboard. Like we said, this should probably come in around about £270, so slightly above the entry-level point for X299, but of course not particularly cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Do check back to the Kikaroo website for the full written article with photos and a more in-depth look at the motherboard. If you like this video, click like. If you dislike it, click dislike and tell us why. If you want to see more like this, do hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Luke Hill for Kikaroo.